Mm-hmm. Yep. I heard you. I heard you. The Hawks paid too much. The Hawks gave up too much. Unprotected picks. Who gives those away? I also heard you say, no, no. How can Trae Young and Dejounte coexist in the same backcourt? They both need the ball in their hands. Shut up. Just be quiet. I'm going to explain to you why Dejounte Murray being acquired by the Atlanta Hawks is exactly 100% exactly what the Hawks needed after this. Oh, my bad. I was grooving to the sound. What's going on, you squares? This is Man Down Zoe, 1/5 for the Man Down podcast, but this is Bird Dog Brave Talk, where I break down all the news and notes from my favorite teams from a fan's perspective. And as you can see from the intro and from the title, we're talking about the Dejounte Murray trade. The Atlanta Hawks acquired Dejounte Murray and Jock Landale for money, of course, from the San Antonio Spurs for Danilo Gallinari, a 2023 first rounder, a 2025 first rounder, a 2027 first rounder, and a pick swap in 2026. The option, of course, of the Spurs to take that pick swap or not. I am here to tell you that was not too much, and it may have sounded like too much in the initial news, especially since that 2025 and 2027 pick is unprotected. But let me explain why it's not too much. First and foremost, the 2023 pick is not the Atlanta Hawks pick. It is the Charlotte Hornets pick that we got in the Cam Reddish deal that sent him to New York, and we took that Charlotte pick. We gave that to the Spurs. It's also top 14 lottery protected. So that pick may not even convey next year. I think if it doesn't convey next year, it turns into like a second round pick, whatever the case may be. Second reason why it was not too much is because we still have our 2023 first round pick. We still have our 2024 first round pick. We won't give an actual pick of our own to the San Antonio Spurs until 2025. It is 2022. That is 3 years from now. Between now and then, I fully believe that we are either going to get back in that draft or we will be contenders and won't need to get back in that draft. Same with the 2027 pick. So I don't feel like it was too much for a guy who's averaging 21.1 points per game, 8.3 rebounds from the guard position, and also 9.2 assists. I think he fits perfectly next to Trae, considering the fact that some of Trae's deficiencies in basketball, particularly the defensive end of the ball, is a strength of Dejounte Murray. He's led the league with 2 steals per game last year. He's a scrappy defender. He's 6'4" with a 6'11" wingspan, so he's really, really cagey when it comes to guarding the best players on the opposite team, especially at the guard position. I feel like he'll be able to be that length that Kevin Huerter wasn't on the defensive end. And now Kevin Huerter was not a bad defender, but I do feel like Dejounte is a better defender, and I also feel like he is a more willing defender on that end. Some guys, like those dudes from Seattle, just got that dog in them. And he's one of those Seattle dudes. They got that dog in them. Aside from basketball, real quick, if you haven't heard his story, just of his upbringing and the things that he's had to endure, some by his own right and a lot of it done because of his environment, the things he's endured at a young age and able to overcome and still be an NBA player who's 2 years away from probably getting that bag. It's just a remarkable story, and it shows his character and it shows that he's able to fight. But back to the basketball side of things, I told you defensively they'll be able to hide Trae Young and have him guard the best guard, the ball handling guard on the perimeter. And I think this will do wonders also for DeAndre Hunter, who had used to have that task of guarding every best player on the opposite team. I think it limits him to just wings. He doesn't have to guard as many guards because he got Dejounte next to him, which makes his job easier. Which in turn, if he's guarding the best wings and Dejounte is guarding the best guards, I think that opens things up and takes a little pressure off of Clint because it won't be so many drives at the point of attack that guards aren't able to stop. Because let's just be honest, Trae Young, as great as he is offensively, he's 6'1", 170 pounds, and athletically he's not long or a high jumper, so it's difficult for him on the defensive end all around. He has gotten better, but it's still difficult for him at the point of attack. It's very difficult for him to get around some of those screens on the defensive end. But I think with the addition of Dejounte, he can focus on whoever the spot up shooter is and move with him, not the primary ball handle. And that it makes the whole defensive side of the ball much easier for the Hawks, which, they were great on offense last year because Trae Young was the maestro. At least until the first round of the playoffs, they were great on offense. I think that they'll be even better on offense considering the fact that you won't be able to do to the Hawks what the Miami Heat did to the Hawks, which was double and blitz off every screen and roll that Trae Young ran. They made sure he was not able to get downhill. He wasn't able to come off that curl and get to the paint or get to his floater or throw the lob. They made him pass the ball. They made his teammates be tasked with the ability or the tasked with the responsibility to become playmakers, and that's just not their game. Now, with Dejounte Murray as a backcourt running mate, it is his game, as you can see from the 9.2 assist. He's able to get his teammates involved, and he's played with other all-stars like DeMar DeRozan. So I think that, the transition of them working together, of course, there'll be one, but I strongly disagree with the people who are saying it's not going to be a fit. I think the fact that they were willing to do this, they were talking about it in advance of the trade with each other. I think it's going to show the willingness for them to give the ball up if need be. I think that Dejounte is not much of a shooter, not as good of a shooter. He has gotten a lot better, but he's definitely a slasher. He can attack closeouts. He can attack those lanes. If Trae has the ball in his hands, and if Dejounte has the ball in his hands, it gives Trae a chance to do some off-ball a la Steph Curry, run around some screens, get open. We all know he has that quick trigger release and a good three-point shot. It gives him a chance to do that. And most importantly, you cannot trap anybody and expect that to be the answer to stopping them from being able to facilitate and get others involved, because you have two guys on there that are high-level facilitators, high-level playmakers. They can score for themselves, but they can also put people in positions and passes with their passes to score. A lot of the things that people were saying that it may not vault the Hawks up that Eastern Conference ladder. But to that, I say it's to be determined. Considering the fact that the Hawks were in a play-in game last year, I guess you could say it's definitely going to be an improvement in my opinion, just because I don't feel like they were really a play-in team. In my opinion, they were really, if fully healthy, minus all of the COVID stuff and everything that took place, I think if fully healthy, the Hawks were probably a 5th seed last year. You had, of course, Philly and the Bucks. You had Chicago, who was killing early. You had Cleveland, who was killing early. So I think they were right there in that Cleveland range. Of course, you had Boston Celtics, and those guys in the Miami Heat who were contending for first place. But I think the Hawks right at that 5th seed. So I think that's what they would have been had they remained healthy. So the addition of him, I think they'll be right around that same range when it comes to the playoffs. But I think that in the playoffs, teams are going to have to revamp their game plan and not just say we have to just take Trae Young out of the game. So it's to be determined. A lot of that is also dependent on what this roster looks like going forward. John Collins has been getting shopped for the past 3 years. So I don't know whether he's going to be on the roster. If he is, that's great. We can see where he takes his game. But I'm more interested to see two people in particular, how they play, and that's DeAndre Hunter, who used to be tasked with guarding the absolute best perimeter player on the opposite team. Now he'll be tasked with just the best wing on the opposite team. And I want to see what his offensive game grows into. As some of you may remember his game against the Heat last year where he was wrongfully called of a foul and fouled out. He had like 32 points, and we probably had a better chance of winning that game had he not fouled out because he was showing some shot creation, shot making. He was in a rhythm and nothing that Miami could do to stop him. Let's see if he takes that next level leap when it comes to that. Also, John Collins, like I mentioned before, see if he takes that leap. But more importantly than John Collins, I would say, is Clint Capella. Will he be able to be that guy who was the defensive anchor for the Hawks during that Eastern Conference Finals run? Last year, Clint came in kind of, I wouldn't say out of shape. I don't think he was fully healthy. And I think that kind of slowed him down. And then he was out for the health and safety protocols. Then, just a lot of things. He didn't look like himself until mid-season, going into late season. Of course, he got hurt in that Cleveland Cavaliers play-in game. And so he came back for the Heat, but he was a shell of himself. I want to see if he comes out. And I want to see also what this addition of Dejounte Murray does for him. A lot of the Hawks' issues on defense came at the point of attack. So the primary ball handler being able to get around and get downhill whoever was guarding them, whether it be Trae or Bogey or Kev on the perimeter, they have been able to get to the hole and have Clint work overtime. Now, a lot of the times he can erase those shots, but I think with DeJounte up there, it'll limit some of that point of attack those point of attack problems that we had with the team last year. Also, I want to see what Jalen Johnson turns into. He had a procedure along with Bogey this offseason. Let's see if he'll be ready. I saw some clips of him in the gym, so I think he will be. Not too sure about Bogey, but with Jalen Johnson, he should assume all of those minutes on the backup power forward spot since Danilo Gallinari is now a free agent and soon to be a Boston Celtic. Also, the additions of the Holiday brothers, Justin and Aaron. Aaron, presumably for that backup point guard spot. Justin for that wing position, that 3-and-D kind of wing. And Mo Harkless. Let's see what they bring to the table, because you got a couple of different guys that can play a couple of different positions. Aaron Holiday primarily is a point guard. He's a guard. I don't see him playing much off ball, but Justin can definitely play the 2 or the 3. Harkless can play the 3 or the 4, and they both have good instincts when it comes to defense. So, we made that trade. We, of course, lose Kevin Huerter in that trade, and we gain a first-round pick. But I just want to see before I say the Hawks are now contenders, I want to see how they gel together. It's going to take some time. I want to see how creative the offensive play calling is, and that's on Nate McMillan. I want to see how you're able to incorporate these off-ball situations for Trae. I want to see who you're using to manufacture offense and not just depending solely on the pick and roll to do so, because if that's what it is, it's going to be much, much easier to stop. So it just remains to be seen. Overall, though, I really, really, really like this move. I don't think it was an overpay. I think he fits perfectly with Trae. I think he brings a lot offensively. I think he brings even more defensively, which is going to be really, really big. And I think it moves the Hawks up from where they were last year. If you haven't already, once again, like, comment, subscribe to the Man Down Podcast. Keep in mind, we will be dropping more and more content. I'll be dropping more of these lately. This is your boy, Man Down. So we out.